Hi and welcome to the 14th episode of Bouldern. My name is Juliane Fritz and I am your show host. In this episode you will get a very interesting talk about the Forest of Fontainebleau, one of the most famous outdoor bouldering areas, if not the most famous one. You will hear Gaetane Hay. She works at the ONF in Fontainebleau. The ONF is the Office National des Forêts in France, so that is the Forestry Office. Gaetane works there as the head of the tourism and biodiversity unit, where the people are trying to maintain the biodiversity of the forest. And that, of course, is a very special challenge in this very special forest, because so many boulderers have been coming to this place, and as the bouldering sport is growing, so many more people will come. And it is important to manage a balance between the needs of the bouldering community and the needs of the flora and fauna in Fontainebleau. Gaetane herself is a climber. She also climbed with us at the Women's Bouldering Festival, a festival that we visited when we were in Fontainebleau. And it was really super interesting to hear what she had to say. She held a speech in the evening after we climbed, and you will hear that she's not always happy about how people treat the forest. And that can be climbers, or that can just be people visiting the forest, taking a walk there. Not everyone treats Fontainebleau and the nature in an appropriate way. That is sad, and hopefully there will be more and more people changing their minds about how to behave in the outdoors. Here's the speech of Gaetane Hay, and in the end, the second woman you hear talking is Sophia, the organizer of the Women's Bouldering Festival.
Hi everybody. I'm glad I had the honor to spend some time with you today. I won't be here tomorrow, but it was a really good event for me too. So thank you, Sophia, and thank you everybody. I don't know if you know the French Forestry Office. So my first question to you is, what do you think we do in this forest? Any clue?
Conserve.
What do we conserve?
The rock, the trees, the stuff.
So, anyone? Another go? We do that.
Picking up trash.
So what we do in the forest before anything is we're trying to harvest trees to produce wood for you to build houses or to heat your house or to, basically we produce wood. That's the reason we exist. Sorry? Mostly to build training gears for climbers. Yes, that's the future. Thank you. So that's we have five missions. The first one is to produce wood. Producing wood is not easy because what I'm gonna let grow today, because we don't plant. Mostly we try to let nature do its things. Like when a little seed of the oak tree is going on the ground, 10% of them are going to give a tree, and only 1% of them, 100 years after, is going to be a big, beautiful tree, maybe big enough, straight enough, nice enough that we can actually sell it to someone that's going to be able to build climbing gears. That's it. So that's the first mission. The second mission, very boring as well, is to provide wood for the industry. I won't bore you with that, but to let the French industry, supply something to them, economic, boring stuff for you maybe. Third mission, to preserve biodiversity. So in Fontainebleau, we are very lucky because for the French, around Paris, at the moment there's no more insects, no more bees, no more birds. But at least in some of those forests, they can find a little place to still live. And we have a European, French regional mission and obligation to actually make those plants and animals survive. So it is one of our missions, and that's why sometimes you have interdiction to do what you have to do. Mostly in spring, we have some little birds that love to nest on the floor. How boring are they? are stupid because when they're scared, they leave their baby behind them and they don't come back. So we don't want to scare them. And if you, for example, go out of the climbing because hey, that boulder is much better there, or too many English people there, and I don't like the Polish people there, so I'm going to go there and I'm going to brush those 10 boulders and I'm going to do something awesome. Yeah, but that you're fucking annoying because you are going to a spot in spring when we've said and committed to make sure that those animals will have a place to live. And if they see you and your other friends the next weekend because you told them and you told 27 Crag and you told Bleau, and then everybody goes there, you thought it was a secret, but the next year it's not a secret anymore. And that's a bit, it's not a massive problem, we're not going to put a fine, but it's actually have impact. So it's really important to understand that if there are some restrictions, soon you'll read, oh, it's not really good to go to climb there. I just want you to understand that there are some reasons. We're not putting interdiction, and I won't put interdiction on climbers or any sport, because one of our fourth mission is actually to make sure we welcome anyone, not just climbers, anyone in any French forest that is a national forest. So another obligation for us is to make sure you have a car park, you have information, you have a place to, you're not going to receive a tree on your head and you're not going to receive a boulder on your head. For example, you saw that big elephant rock at the entrance today. Well, within next month, it's going to be forbidden to climb that rock. It's not to annoy you, it's because you can die. Because at the moment, all the bottom, the belly of the elephant is collapsing. And it's hollow inside. It has lost 1/3 of its sand, to summarize. So we cannot, because there are maps, there are apps that tells you to climb there. And it's such a big rock, and nice rock, you're going to be proud to climb it. Fair enough, but now it's too late. Now I cannot take the risk to have one of you receiving a big stone on his face or your kids to receive a big stone on his face. So we are going to have to close that rock. So one of our missions is to welcome all the public, and that's another thing I want to say is that when you climb or you put a slack line, you're not the only person who wants to come in this forest this weekend. If there is a horse rider, no slack line should be blocking any passage. And now there is a fine if you do that. It is not to annoy you, it's just because you're not the only one. All right? So that's quite important. Share the space. Often we like the gym, we like to big problems, and we like to spend hours on a problem, and we put 6 crash pads and a can of beer and some music. Well, first think about the music, because if we all put the music we like, it's not really nice. So music, it's not forbidden as such. If the reason I would forbid the music would be to protect the animals, but respect the others. So if you spend 6 hours blocking a pathway, preventing other people to climb, you're not playing the fair game, because this forest is to share for everybody. It's not just for climbers. So, and the last mission is to make sure that we don't burn Fontainebleau. And in the mountain, that when there are forests in the mountains, we have to make sure that the ground is not falling on the road. So to protect the terrain de montagne anyway. You understand. So we have also this kind of caretaking mission. So those are our 5 missions, and they explain a lot of the rules that I will present quickly later. Before that, Fontainebleau is also, do you know when Fontainebleau Forest actually was a forest, started to be a forest? Anyone has a clue?
Because the wood for building for the marine or something like this.
A lot of wood was used. It started much before. It's more than 1,000 years old. It was actually that ground is sandy. You saw it sandy. 35 million years ago, it was more like Bordeaux or like a beach. And then all that sand sedimented became those big boulders, if you want, and we still have the sand that didn't sedimented. Poof, quickly. But in the year 1146, one of the king decided that, okay, we cannot do much in this soil, but we could at least, on some of those areas, grow some wood. Yes, to harvest. But the first, really, because this actually is not really good soil, even for wood, the oak tree grows really slowly. So, I know we are very patient as forestry people, but we also need to make money to pay for climbing gears. So, the main goal of those kings, because most of the French kings up to Napoleon III lived in Fontainebleau Castle. What they did was building a hunting lodge. So what they were doing, and that's the most, they were doing hunting with dogs. You know that you call it in English fox hunting.
Yeah.
So 40 dogs that's gonna follow a deer, and some people follow those dogs with horses. And actually, we still have 2 teams doing that, and they maybe kill 4 deer a year. Maybe that's a big deal for some of you, but that's not my topic. But that's the reason that forest was created for kings, and the castle was created. That was the closest hunting lodge from Paris. And so all the kings, some of them lived in that castle, but almost all of them, were coming to Fontainebleau a few weekends, a few months to do this. And hunting with dogs was also very good for training your horse riding skill if you're going to go in the military after. So to be a good horse rider, not to be practicing in a boring place, like you, they wanted to have fun, they were practicing in the forest. So Fontainebleau Forest has been a leisure place, not really a forestry place, for more than, not maybe 1,000 years, but almost. So that's just important to know. Also because you may have noticed, for those of you who've been coming for a few years, that it's obvious for us climbers, or for you climbers, that it's a climbing forest. What else, Jesus? No, for a lot of people it's a horse place. So sometimes in some city, in some village, they don't really care about climbers. There are some more important things. It's the place where they live. 60,000 people live within Fontainebleau, Avon, and all the city around. And for the people, for example, in Noisy and Vaudouet, for people who know Les Trois Pignons, they have a secondary house where they come to relax and be, have a nice weekend. Or they bought that house when they were retiring. And they're not actually climbers. So when they see all those vans with people that don't look really rich, they actually don't understand what's happening with climbing and don't really connect with the climbing world. So yeah, it's, that's a part of the story that I think it's important to know. But I could speak for hours, so I want to go back to my point. Tac, tac, tac. Yes. Tiffany trained me, and that was good what you told me. She asked me, because I'm not going to bore you with all the figures of how many people come in Fontainebleau, and I'm just going to want to come to the good practices. It's just a poster of what to do, what not to do. But basically now, before, you need to know that we have between 10 and 12 million visits a year. And between 1 and 2 million are climbers, and half of them are from abroad. That's the only type of foreign people that come into Fontainebleau. Otherwise, it's a lot of Parisian people coming for a weekend for a walk, for March Nordic trailers. When you want to do an event like Sophia did, you need authorization. I authorize between 300 and 500 events a year. All those things, orienteering, trailing, walking, actually not a lot of climbing events because climbers are autonomous, but other sports need authorization. Why? I don't authorize them just to make them pay or to be the boss, it's just because I don't want to be them to do an event while there is a hunting, not just hunting with deer. We also have to hunt in the forest because we want to make sure the deer doesn't eat all the small trees, so we still have climbing gears in 100 years, wood climbing gears. So we don't want to have a big event, like 1,500 trailers last week, They cannot be climbing when also we are cutting some trees or working on a tree or trying to make sure that that plant is maintained. So that's why there is, you need to ask the Forestry Office when you do big stuff. So now with those 1 to 2 million foreign climbers, we are facing a massive challenge. Climbing in Fontainebleau really started 100 years ago. Maybe a few of you know this book from Catherine Destivelle.
Yeah.
Okay. She's a French climber. She was a world champion, not just of bouldering, of alpinism. She's been in one of alpinist climbers. And she learned in Fontainebleau. She was actually escaping school to come climb around here, but not being from here. And now she's in Chamonix, and she's done that book about 100 years of history of climbing. And it was really hard before to climb in Fontainebleau. You had to know where to go. So you had to buy a map to know someone, and gradually a few people after the war. So before the war, it was still very confidential. It was Parisian people who wanted to train to go in the Alps. Because basically they didn't have time always to go to the Alps. And if you do 40 to 50 boulders in 3 hours, it's really good for endurance training and from technique training. So they were not looking after what you're looking for now, which is more performance on one problem. But that's how they started. They were coming, sometimes they were walking hours from the first train station in Milan to arrive here. And after the war, when sport holidays became, for everybody, mostly in France with the public holidays, 8 weeks a year, blah, 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 it started to generalize. But what happened? They wanted to build a big highway. And to build this highway, they needed more, let's say, sand. So they were about to dig a lot of the spot where now we're climbing. An association started to protect those rocks. They were climbers, and they suddenly came out of the blue because forestry people didn't really know what was happening with the climbers. But suddenly they said, we need to stop the highway taking our boulders. And those people also became the people who actually marked the rocks. So it didn't come from nowhere. That's why I want you to know this history. But only 50% of what you climbers are climbing now is really painted, because for plenty of good and bad reason, now you use other stuff, other maps. You use sites, and maybe some of you don't need to know where to go because you just need to, with a map or with a paint. You just need to know the quotation and the GPS point. This is also an issue for us, because for those last 40, 50 years, what we've done, we were talking with that association once or twice a year, and we were saying, where are you going to do some new tracks? There. Okay, we make sure every year as forestry people that you have somewhere to park your car, a tree is not going to fall on your head. And if we have to invest 100,000 a year to make sure the sand is not all flowing away, then we're going to do it. So we still have, now we have forgotten those tracks, and now what we say is that in a map, we have a map where we say this is for us where we let climbers climb, and this is where they may climb, but we won't secure the site. So on some spots, on some sites where you climb nowadays, it's actually secure. We try to make sure no trees falls, all I said before. On some other spots where you go, you're on your own. If something happened to you, okay, the fireman, if you call the 18, the fireman will still come to save you, but your insurance may say otherwise if then you have a problem. That's in the future. So we're going to tell all the websites about that, but I just want you to know. And when you yourself decide, too many people in Elephant, it's horrible, I'm more clever than them, I'm going to open a new spot. That could be okay, that could be really bad. If you're still in the zone, that's okay. But if you're entering a forbidden area, because we have 1,000 hectares of forbidden area, where you know what we do in those forbidden areas? We actually do nothing. we let the tree be trees, forest be forest, because we study what happened to a forest system when nothing happened. It's really important for us to understand the dynamic of a forestry system. But it also means that if we do nothing, when the trees, which happens in Fontainebleau, are dying or dead, they just fall. They just fall. So we don't, and they fall a lot on those old reserves. And you know what happened 2 weeks ago? In a spot where it's been brushed by climbers, and there was a fire because they thought, I'm going to climb in that forbidden spot and it's awesome, and then I'm going to have a fire because, I'm not going to go back to my place or my country. I'm going to sleep close to the rock, under the rock, and I'm going to do a fire. Yeah. So 1 hectare burned on that forbidden area. No one died. And 2 years ago we had 60 hectares which burned in many fires. It was even drier than this year. But just to give you an example again of, why when we say it's a forbidden area, it's not just to annoy you, it's for a good reason. And now I'm going to go back to, I don't have a list, I'm just going to tell you a few rules quickly. The thing that actually upset or were really blow my mind on the last year, that was your question, Tiffany. That was, have you seen that video of a guy who was drying a rock with a blowtorch? You saw that? So they were, because it was raining and I couldn't go in. It's you. It's him. Look, he's going. It's you. Is it you? You shouldn't have done that. So, always the men. You see? Always the men. So they came for a weekend. They were foreigners, and the rock was wet. And because they came to Fontainebleau for 2 days, they're not going to go to Karma or to block out. No, they need to go to the forest, and it's not drying, so they're going to dry the rock themselves. It damages the rock. It's dangerous for the forest. It is stupid. So that pissed me off. Isatis, you're going to go there tomorrow, and I suggested that for 2 reasons. I want you to. The spot is good for climbing. Is it? It's okay? It's, there are lots of different spots around Isatis. There is enough space for you to park. You won't be the only one, only if it's raining. Also now we had put 2 bars because we didn't want people to camp there. So we had a gate, but a gate for caravan. So that one was 2,500. After 1 week, broken, put on the ditch. Okay, we buy a new one. Okay, 3 weeks, broken, put on the ditch. The game is not funny, So, and the road is really bad. So what we said was, now we thought, I'm almost having enough money soon to do a new road. But it's not sure it's going to be approved because we as ONF have enough. We cannot do that game of mouse and cat all the time. And on Isatis, no one else than climbers are going. Hardly anyone. Like the local people, the trailers, it's actually really a spot where we did some counting. It's almost like 95% of people who go to Isatis are climbers. So we need climbers to understand that if they don't put in something and put in some effort for that spot, okay, at the moment it's a mess because everybody came there, shit there, piss there, have fire, have tent, which is forbidden because it's a protected area for landscape and it's forbidden to have a tent and to install yourself. We can tolerate people in van, but we cannot tolerate people in tent and staying a long time. So the thing is that in Isatis, what we said is the climbing community, we okay to make a bivouac, to put dry toilets, more tables and benches, a place where people with van could stay a night, only, and do the new road, only if the climbing community contributes. But we cannot have a kind of shit hole like this, because that's what it is at the moment, lasting in Fontainebleau Forest. So this is another spot. And today it was also good for you to climb in Elephant. That's the name of the spot, it's the name of that rock, because what happened to Elephant is erosion. And so the sand the sandstone in that south part of the forest is older than the sandstone you're going to climb tomorrow. That's why it's kind of losing its structure quicker at the moment than the one in the north. But if people still brush too much or climb on wet rock in Elephant and Dame Juan we had to protect half of the side because it was falling apart. Now we're going to have to close the Elephant because it's falling apart. So we think that possibly in L'Archamps, in this area, it's going to be maybe better for the climbing community to stop brushing, so to stop using the chalk. Because the more we brush, the more we take a little bit of the rock with us all the time. And it's not as bad in the north of the forest. So it's not going to be a massive rule, but just it also makes you understand why it's important to preserve. And what you saw, and you're going to see again tomorrow maybe, is erosion. And each time you put your crash pad, erosion that you do to the rock, but before erosion you do to the side. Each time you walk, each time you push your crash pad, each time you go out of the track, you remove the vegetation by walking. Soon there's no vegetation, there's just sand, and sand just flow. So it creates erosion. So that's why we want you to stay on track, and that's why we want you to stay on the spot and to work on erosion. Because in Isatis, the level has gone that down in the last 20 years. It's bad for you because the difficulty of the boulder actually changes, and it's bad for all of us because the roots, have you seen? It's better to put your crash pad or to fall on flat soil than on a big root of a tree, and that's erosion. And in some spot it will also make the boulder less stable. So that's the biggest thing we have to fight in Fontainebleau with sport, mountain bike, climbers, and trailers to some extent. It's the erosion of all the tracks. So that's why on Monday a few of you are going to help us, and I really thank you, Sophia, for accepting this offer, and for the 25 people who are going to do that to fight erosion. On a few other things to say, no rubbish. Someone asked me, why is there not any rubbish bin? So we removed all the rubbish bin from the forest more than 10 years ago because it's bad for the animals. You don't want to, a fox doesn't actually eat a pig or salami or sugar. So it's bad for animals to eat what we eat. So that's one reason. And the other reason, it's impossible for us to organize the pickup of, it already cost 80,000 euro minimum because we decreased the cost those last 3 years to pick up all the rubbish that still come. Two types of rubbish. Your rubbish that are annoying because we have to pick them, your rubbish, normal users, we have to pick them with a pinch like this, it's take a long time. And we also, and it's not your problem, we also have rubbish for industry people that don't want to pay the rubbish tip and so choose to tip in the forest. So that's what we have to do. But no bin, so you take your rubbish back with you, and that's not too difficult if you think about taking a bag with you, a small paper bag, and then you will find in your own house, you can sort out your rubbish, and that's fine. And a few climbing messages, which are not as important for us as forestry people, but are important for all of us as a climbing community. You have to brush your feet before you climb in Fontainebleau because the soil is sandy, and sand is really hard. On sandstone, it actually erodes the sandstone. So that's why it's really important when you're climbing Fontainebleau, you have a crash pad, but you have a towel as well, or a mat, and you always brush your feet, or you can brush your feet on your trousers, but you always brush your feet. You try to leave the sand where it is. You don't drag your crash pad and take the sand to a place where it could actually escape. So you try to be careful about that area where you climb underneath. There are maybe some other rules that are important for climbers, but are not, that I have forgotten.
No climbing on wet rock.
Yeah, and you don't climb on wet rock. I thought I said it, but I'm not sure. So that's why there is still this organization called Rock that do the painting of the tracks, and we still do an awesome job with them. But now there are some more work to do to communicate to 1 million of foreigners about the good practices. So that's why a few good people like Sofia, the manager of Karma, and a few other people have started an association that's going to be official within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the time for approval and things, which called Respect Bleau. And this association, I leave it because it's not. We're going to do one job with them is try to raise money for Isatis. But I'm just going to leave Sofia to present.
Okay, so first of all, I really wanted to say thank you to Gaetane for approving our event, because the first step of creating this event was going to Gaetane and asking, can I bring 50 or more women to the forest? And she said very kindly yes, so... To Respect Bleau, the idea is that this association, which it's a very common form of doing things in France. You create an association, doesn't need to be a company, it's an association, so it means it's non-profit, it's like a charity, but it's just created by sort of volunteers as a group that comes together to do something good, hopefully. And Respect Bleau will do various things for the forest to facilitate the cooperation between the forest and the climbers, and the first and most important at the moment project will be securing funds to create this bivouac that Gaetane mentioned before at the site of Isatis. Because at the moment the road to Isatis is horribly bad. You're gonna go there tomorrow, drive at 5 kilometers per hour, because otherwise you're gonna lose your wheels, that's pretty much it. So the ONF are going to put forward loads of money to pave that road or to do whatever surface is suitable for the forest, but then that just means that they're creating a good road into a place where people are going to camp illegally, which means that they're going to go to the toilet illegally or in a not proper way for the forest. They're going to put their rubbish out there, they're going to do everything that's not good for the site, which basically bring us to a point when the ONF said, actually we're not going to fix that road, we're going to close the parking altogether. And then that means that we wouldn't have access as climbers to the site, which is one of the biggest and most important sites in the forest. It's huge, you're going to see it tomorrow, it's absolutely amazing. So the understanding that we have is that if the climbing community can contribute a little bit and show that we care for this place, then the ONF will agree to make it a legal bivouacking site, which means that if you come with your car, you want to sleep in the boot of your car, off of your van, you will be able to go there, donate like, €5 or whatever, and sleep there, have a toilet. I don't know about water access, maybe not.
You can't because it's too far.
Yeah, it's quite far from the road, so no water, but a toilet. So we will have a fundraiser, like, one of those...
Maybe a woman and a man toilet? Maybe 2 toilets?
No, they're going to skip left to the town.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's going to be a fundraiser, like, on one of those Kickstarter pages or something like that. We hope it's going to be ready in a few months.
Yeah.
And we will help on the sort of marketing side when it comes to communicating with English-speaking climbing world to push that message that everybody should donate a couple of quid to make that site happen. And it would be amazing if when you see it in, coming up in a few months, if you remembered, this is the site I visited with the Women's Bouldering Festival, I'm going to chip in €5 to secure that spot so that we can come back. And that's it.
That was Gaetane Hay of the Forestry Office in Fontainebleau about her work, about the development of bouldering in Fontainebleau, and about the challenges that come with it. And I think it's super interesting to hear how much these officials work and try at the same time to preserve the nature and to preserve bouldering in Fontainebleau. And I saw this beautiful blog called The Elephant in Fontainebleau, the one that she's talking about. And when I saw it, I did not know that this rock is endangered and that it will soon be forbidden to climb there. And I've taken a picture of this rock beauty. And I will post it on my website with this episode and later also on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, so you know what she was talking about. And in the end, this should be a reminder to all of us to behave in another way when we are climbing outdoors, which could also mean take a garbage bag with you to collect the stuff that other people have left in the forest. Or if you see someone behaving in a wrong way in the forest, and it must not be on purpose, then just tell them. For example, tell people to clean their shoes, because otherwise they are destroying the sandstone. Yeah, and this was it for this episode. Thank you so much to Sophia to organize the Women's Bouldering Festival. You will hear more from the festival in my podcast soon. And thank you to Gaetane that she allowed me to use her speech here in my podcast. This is really awesome. And goodbye for this episode. Juliane mein Name und ich bin weg Bouldern.